What's up? Dennis here, Analog Archives. Alright, today, on a very special episode, we have kind of a response video to Steve over at the S&T channel. He did a video called 13 Death Metal Albums That Got Me Into Death Metal, which was kind of interesting to me because a lot of his picks were more like 93, and I was like, oh, this seems like kind of like when I was kind of getting out of death metal, almost not out, but like I was more into I think more black metal at the time because there was so much oversaturation with death metal. Not to say there wasn't a lot of good releases coming out in '93. I'm trying to put that into focus, like those years and where he came into death metal and where I came into death metal were just completely different. So we kind of got to talking a little bit about it. And he was like, well, I'd like to see your list. So I thought I'd do mine. Mine are going to be 13, more like 13 releases, because a lot of mine are demos. I heard a lot of demos before I heard full-length albums, I guess, which makes sense at the time. But before we get started, this might be a little bit long because, I get a little talkative on this stuff sometimes. But go check out Steve's fucking page if you haven't, or check out his video on this because he's very into death metal, man. A lot of excitement when he talks about stuff, so it's cool to see. What we're jamming is Axis Power's Pure Slaughter. This is a Swedish death metal band that came out in 2005, I believe this release was. This had to be towards the resurgence of one of the better bands of the resurgence of the OSDM scene. This is fucking crushing, dude. Just a fucking banger. So check the Access Power out. Access Powers, if you haven't heard them. I think they have this and a 7-inch. I have the 7-inch. They might have something else. I don't know. But this fucking kills. If you like old school Swedish death metal mixed with Autopsy, you'll like this. Played with a lot of passion, I guess is the word to say. Alright. What we're drinking today, we are going to have a Great Basin. This is a brewery out of Reno, Nevada. And this is a sun-smacked blood orange blonde ale. So nothing too heavy. But I've tried this before. It's pretty good. I think I bought I think I was somewhere and I got to try this. I think one of the vendors was there, so it's good stuff. I mean, I like an ale once in a while. Lagers. It's good. All right, so let's get started. So I want to kind of start out with some classics because it's 13, but there'll probably be more than 13 here. Just because I'm going to kind of do a little bit of history on stuff I know is death metal, but I didn't really think it was death metal at the time, but I guess it got me into death metal, so. And then we'll go from there. I'll kind of explain things, but let's look at this album. We're looking at Possessed, Seven Churches, OG with the embossed. And the debate is this the first death metal album? I mean, it does have a lot of thrash influences. Maybe you can call it death thrash, but honestly, you can call all the early death metal stuff death thrash because it has a lot of thrash metal influences, right? So, well, for the sake of whatever, this is a death metal album. So, I will say this is probably the first death metal album I got, but I didn't consider it death metal, so I wouldn't say it got me into death metal. So this is Possessed, Seven Churches, 1985. Obvious classic. I don't really need to go into it as far as what's on it and why it's something you should own. Number two, I would say, well, I mean, I think you guys can guess this, right? It's always on the debate. Probably should have opened these first, but fuck it. Yeah, Death, Scream, Bloody Gore. Obvious classic, man. From Florida. Again, these guys were around at the same time. Formed Mantis first, then with Cam Lee on vocals on the early Death stuff. So, but this one with Chris Reifert on it, and the immortal John Hand. Where is he? There he is, the immortal John Hand. Who never was on this record, but yeah. So I mean, this is kind of where I want to talk and about death metal in general, about how even we'll take these records, these two records. What is one thing that kind of separates them out from the thrash scene? Well, this one's very on the satanic age. Very on the satanic fringe, as some people might consider it black metal, right? Our thrash metal, our death metal. Satanic lyrics, but it also has a very, The Exorcist, which is horror influenced, where I thought a lot of death metal was taking influence from horror movies at the time, whereas that wasn't something thrash metal really did. I mean, it did to a certain extent, but I think what really happened was in the 80s, especially the early 80s to the mid 80s, all these like really graphic horror movies started coming out, and that kind of influenced this gore into death metal. So it went from this very raw, like, you know, those special effects with a lot of like Rob Bottin, Tom Savini, all that stuff that was coming out at the time in the 80s, I think really had a lot of effect on metal coming out at the time. And of course, you know, you have The Exorcist on here, but of course, on this one, you have a lot more horror influences. And this was coming back from the demos. This stuff was like on the 85 demos, 80, maybe even the 84 demos. You have, this album came out in 87, by the way. But a lot of these songs were already written back in 85. So, Zombie Ritual, Denial of Life, Mutilation, Regurgitated Guts, which is about a Fulci film, Gates of Hell, Evil Dead, obvious reference to the movie Evil Dead, which came out in 82. So, I think that it just had a lot to do with death metal, the death metal genre in particular coming out, whereas that was something that was happening at the time, and it was very relevant, and it made its way into the music. A lot more violent, a lot more gory, and a lot more influenced by soundtracks, I think, too, as well. Which is interesting, but you can hear it on a lot of the compositions. And then we have from 86, Sepultura, Morbid Visions. Again, very influential, and from Brazil. And these guys that were around already since, I mean, I think the first EP came out in 86. Or 85, sorry. 85. So you have 85 and 86 here. So right around the same time period as the Death and Possessed. So again, lyrics very much in the vein of very satanic lyrics. Crucifixion, Troops of Doom, Morbid Visions, Empire of the Damned, Funeral Rites. Fucking just a brutal fucking, almost like, this has a lot of first wave. And that's another thing too, is you can't discount the bands that came before this, like Hellhammer, Celtic Frost, Sodom, early Sodom, bands like Exorcist. I'm just trying to think of certain bands that were on that had those vocals that were more demonic, even early Creator, Endless Pain type stuff, even Pleasure to Kill. Like that stuff all had very gnarly ass vocals on it. So to transition to this, I don't think it was that big of a thing for me. So I never really like, there was never a point where I was like, oh, what is this? This isn't thrash. It was just more extreme thrash to me, which I wanted to hear more of. Obviously, that's why I got into death metal. And I think there's a cutting point that people that grew up with thrash, whereas you either went the death metal route or you were like, what's going on with those vocals? Or these lyrics are a little too much for me. I like Metallica and Testament, you know, Exodus, but this stuff's a little too much. So I'm going to go more towards the like newer stuff, like whatever was coming out then. So more Testament, the newer Testament type of stuff, or Dark Angel was progressing. More of those bands were just getting more, I don't want to say commercial, but they were like, every label was putting out some thrash metal record. And the guys like me were just like, I don't want to fucking hear like cleaner shit. I want to hear darker stuff. I want to hear the darkest shit possible. So, and those guys like me went towards death metal. Another huge release, for me anyways, was Necrophagia, Season of the Dead. And I knew this band from all the New Renaissance compilations because they were pretty much on like every compilation. But we'll get into a little bit of compilations later. But I would say these 4 records for me are like solid death metal classics, where I could definitely say, hey, those are death metal records. And I think it's a starting point, whereas, like I said, people are either going down the thrash metal route or the death metal route. And this would be the death metal route, where you have the Necrophagias, the Sepulturas, Possess, and Death. And it just got heavier and darker and more guttural from there. But I think this is a huge record as far as like influence on a lot of bands. And this band was around since '84 too. So again, all these bands kind of started at the same time. Maybe Sepultura just a little bit later, by like a year. But they might have been playing stuff. They just don't have stuff released. Again, very horror movie influenced. Almost every song's based on a horror movie. You have Season of the Dead, great intro, Forbidden Pleasure, Insane for Blood, about Dracula, Ancient Slumber, again, Evil Dead, Abomination, Painful Discharge, Beyond and Back. Just a great fucking record that honestly doesn't get enough attention as far as when people talk about origins of death metal. They don't really talk about this too much. You'll see it here and there. But a lot of people forget about this record, and I think the reason why it wasn't available as easily as the other ones, this one was a little bit harder to get, maybe. I'm guessing. I don't know, honestly. I would think not, because if you were really into the music at the time, you would know that band. Alright, so let's get started. So, we'll say the timeline here is about 87, right? And that's when the Necrophagia came out. But of course, I had heard them since like 85, so I had already known the band. But for me, these are the 3 demos that really hit me, that I was listening to something that, well, there's a few here that I was like, this is death metal, like this is a different genre. And you know, magazines or whatever, fanzines or whatever I was reading at the time might have been something that kind of persuaded me in my thoughts, but they're the Nihilist demos. So these were heavy hitters for me growing up. I still love these demos. I think when somebody talks about death metal, I just talk about Nihilist as far as death metal. This demo is pretty good, still pretty thrashy, and this was from '87. But then you have this one, man, which is Only Shreds Remain. And this one, you have, I think Johnny was singing on this, from Unleashed. I don't know if he's credited on here as the vocals, but yeah, he's just credited as bass. But what I've heard is that he did do the vocals on here. He said he's done the vocals on this. So if he said he did the vocals on this, and it doesn't sound like LG, even though he's credited. So I think Johnny did do the vocals on this demo. Again, I don't know for sure, but that's what everybody says. So I'm going to say that this demo is super raw and fucking extreme as far as death metal goes. So to me, this shit just fucking crushes, man. Nihilist, Only Shreds Remain. Definitely check that out if you haven't heard it. Premature Autopsy. Sorry, I didn't really talk about this one too much, but Sentenced to Death, Supposed to Rot, Carnal Leftovers. Just a fucking ripper, man. Both those demos just rip. And then, of course, you have the Drowned demo, which sounded more like what Entombed were going to sound like, I would say. And you have Severe Burns and When Life Has Ceased. Both really good versions. Just fucking crushing, man. Love this demo too, but doesn't beat Only Shreds Remain for me. And then I just added this one in here. I think this was 89 as well. Trying to look at the date. Oh, this is, yeah, 89 Sunlight Studios. And this is the Entombed demo. But Life Goes On. So, and this was definitely sounding like how the record would sound. I like LG's vocals on here better than on the full length, but yeah, man, this is a fucking crusher. So to me, these three demos, I wouldn't say the Entombed, but these three demos were death metal to me. Like, this was the shit. Still is the shit to me. Like, I listen to this stuff still. It's not like something and the same thing with those other original records, the Necrophagy and all that stuff. I still listen to all that stuff. So it definitely had a profound effect on my life, I would say. I mean, I'm still listening to this stuff now. So, all right, the next huge band that we're going to talk about, you could probably guess, is going to be Morbid Angel. Thy Kingdom Come demo, and this was 87 on this one. This is the first one I heard, and then soon after that I got Abominations of Desolation, recorded in 86. This has Mike Browning on vocals, this has David Vincent on vocals. Just fucking blew my mind, man. This and the Nihilist were like, and a few other things, was all the fucking shit I listened to back then. But this, man, is so fucking great as far as like taking like Slayer, and I'm sure they had heard Napalm Death, but you can't discount Napalm Death because they had a huge influence on the death metal scene as far as blast beats go and just overall extremity, where you could go, I guess. And we were all into that stuff, so. But this, I didn't, at the time I just thought it was a demo. I didn't know it was supposed to be a full length, again recorded in 86, so very early full length death metal record that would have come out before Scream Bloody Gore if you want to go that route. And then Thy Kingdom Come, which was heavier and just, I don't know, both of these are just fucking killer, man. Very satanic again, and I pulled this one out just because it's part of the Abomination and Desolation. This was the original Satanic Records release, unofficial release. This was released by the band, but it never saw light of day as far as, so this is the original release by the band. I don't know, like, I just got traded through tape traders. So I didn't get it from the band. I got it from a tape trader. Again, I just thought it was a... And then Earache re-released it. I don't think they really did anything to the mix or anything, as far as I know. But they gave it a horrible fucking cover. It has like some... I don't know. You've seen that fucking shitty cover. So... Morbid Angel, huge influence on me. And the first time I ever heard of Morbid Angel was I would go to this comic shop, and the guy that worked there was into death metal. He was like at least 10 years older than I was, and he used to get all the demos and all that shit and fanzines. And he gave me a fanzine, or he let me borrow it. It was all in a different language, but it had a big article on Morbid Angel, and it had like 2 Morbid Angel stickers in it, which he gave me, which was just a big black sticker with the Morbid Angel and red logo. And I immediately stuck it on my leather jacket. I don't know why. I was like, this band has to be good by that logo. So I gave one to my friend. He put it on his jacket, and we were Morbid Angel fans all of a sudden, even though we never heard one damn song. But we knew they were death metal, I guess. We were all listening to death at the time and stuff. So I think it was just a great time to be in that scene. And then, of course, up next, Autopsy, man. Shit, both these demos, 87 and 88. These things just crushed it, dude. Both these demos are just heavy as fuck. Got these from Chris. They are pretty nice, honestly. Like, they did a nice, like, cardboard demo cover. And I'm assuming that's his writing, but that's the 87 demo. And this has one of my favorite songs that never got released called Mauled to Death, about a pit bull attack, which was kind of a big thing in that time period, I guess, pit bull attacks. And then Critical Madness, you have Charred Remains, Ridden with Disease, and Critical Madness on here. And we'll go back to horror movies again. Critical Madness was the movie Truth or Dare, if you guys know that movie. Kind of a shot-on-video, cheapy, but super gory. It does make an appearance on the full length as well, so we'll talk about that in a little bit. All right, so that's there. So that's kind of like where I started, where I was like, this is death metal. I think is with Nihilist, Morbid Angel, and Autopsy. And those, I think, are the quintessential, like, death metal bands, where they were, like, super into, they were just, it was a step above death, I guess, whereas death was more thrash based. And you can even argue, like, Morbid Angel has some thrash influences, which is fair to say, but I still think it was just different. It just sounded different than anything I was hearing at the time. So, all right, and then on to, like, up next is more like, so at this point I'm starting to get really into tape trading, really into death metal, just trading a lot with a lot of people, buying a lot of demos from a lot of bands. So we're looking at like 88, 89, somewhere around there. So I just grabbed a bunch. I'm going to do some Swedish stuff first. Just go through some shit, man. Necrophobic Slow Asphyxiation demo. This was 1990. Used to play the shit out of this demo. Me and my buddy would just jam the fucking shit out of this. Super professional, man. As far as like a demo goes. Nice fold out, glossy, with the old Necrophobic logo there. And on a pro tape too, which you didn't see a lot of, so they did put some money into this demo when it came out. And you guys know Necrophobic, dude. But yeah, man. So Swedish death metal, this shit just fucking blew my mind. The cover's fucking hilarious, but looks like it was done in like a marker. But man, heavy fucking riffs everywhere on this thing. Just killed it. Up next, another fucking banger. Carnage, Infestation of Evil. Again, bringing that Swedish sound. This was just a fucking death metal masterpiece. I used to fucking jam the shit out of this all the time. I had the first one too, but I got this one first, and this was 1989. The other one I think is 89 as well, I think. The first demo, I'm not positive. But that one had more of a grindcore feel to it. This one has Torn Apart and Infestation of Evil. So 2 songs off the actual record. Yeah. Check out Carnage if you haven't. Here's a fucking killer fucking demo. Unleashed, The Utter Dark. Man. This, like, to me, this took, like, an, again, really nice fucking professional cardboard layout. But this took, like, the Entomb stuff and, like, just fucking took it up a notch and made it more barbaric and heavy, which I fucking loved at the time. Crushing demo, has the Dark One on it, Ancient Dead, and Violent Ecstasy. And then another Swedish classic, Grave, Anatomia Corporis Humani from 1989. This shit was coming out in 89, man. Again, just pummeling Swedish death metal. One of my favorite bands that doesn't get enough love from the scene. But yeah, man, just a banger of a fucking record. Of a demo, I mean. And I'm not going to go into these a lot because you guys should know these bands already. If you haven't heard the demos, definitely check out the demos. It's a lot of the stuff is a lot rawer and just nastier. And that's no fault to the band for having better production on records, obviously. It's just, that's just how demos were recorded. And it just works for death metal. And I'll put it to this, it's like watching something on Blu-ray, like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and then watching it on VHS. It's a completely different experience, right? You have a lot of, like, fuzzy lines and garbled audio on the VHS, whereas the Blu-ray is completely pristine and nice. But the movie's not nice. You don't want to hear it. You don't want to watch it that way because it wasn't meant to be watched like that. It was meant to be watched on 35 millimeter film, honestly. But if you can't watch it that way, I mean, I think the next best way is to watch it on VHS. So. And I feel like I can kind of compare that to demos and full lengths, because a lot of full lengths just had the demo songs, but they were better produced. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing on a lot of records. It's just, if you heard the demo first and then you hear a record, you're just like, all right, well, I like the song, but I liked it on the demo. And I'm not trying to be that demo guy. It's just, that's how you heard it first. That's how you know the song, I guess. And a lot of that stuff goes, there is a band that maybe the demo sounded way better, and we'll get to that later. Let's go to another country. We're going to go to Holland, and we're going to talk about Gorefest. Tangled in Gore, again from 1990, I believe, 89. 89, Gorefest, Tangled in Gore. Again, man, just nasty shit. Has the songs Decomposed, Putrid Stench of Human Remains, Gorefest, and Tangled in Gore. And of course, these guys are out of Holland. Put out another killer demo, Horrors in a Retarded Mind, I believe it's called, which I have as well, but I didn't pull that. I'm just pulling like stuff I heard first. So, just killer shit, man. Both those demos. And another band we will talk about from the same area is Asphyx. And this is Crush a Cenotaph from '89 as well. If you don't know that movie, it's Raw Meat. That's what that's taken from. Also called Death Train, I want to say. Crush a Cenotaph, Rite of Shades, Abomination Echoes, and Thoughts of an Atheist are on this. Again, man, just, if you haven't heard the early Asphyx stuff, you definitely do yourself a favor and check this out. I think they re-recorded this. I remember an EP called the same thing. I think it's the same songs. But I haven't listened to that in years, so I can't tell you. But this is a fucking just crushing fucking death metal album. Again, '89, man. It's not that far off from thrash metal. I mean, there's still a lot of thrash metal coming out at this time. So getting into this stuff was a real challenge because it wasn't available. You had to seek it out, man. You definitely had to go find it. You had to send out money or send out tapes to get this stuff. Let's check out Finland. Sorry, this video is going to be kind of long. Abhorrence, Vulgar Necrology. This came out in, I want to say, '89 or '90 as well. Yeah, dude. Fuck, dude. '90. This came out in '90. Abhorrence. If you haven't heard this, obviously it's pre-Amorphous. And this was just fucking amazing shit from Finland. Super dark, man. Very dark and atmospheric stuff. Very killer fucking rhythms. I used to listen to this one all the time. Songs on here: Intro, The Cult, Vulgar Necrology, Pleasures of Putrid Flesh, and Devourer of Souls. Abhorrence, Vulgar Necrology. Check it out if you haven't. Up next, another one from Finland. We have Convulse with the Resuscitation of Evilness, man. Just a banger. It says it on the back. Here's kind of something you can look at too. So this was 1990, 90, and you're looking, it does say fast and brutal death metal. So it is shouting out that they are definitely death metal. And yeah, this and the full length, again, nice cardboard inlay, fast and brutal death metal. There's the guys. Holy fuck, dude. Just fucking evil fucking shit. Very, very fucking high up on my list. Both of these I was listening to all the time back then. So that's why, and we'll get to it, but there's like, that's why I'm like, in '93 I was already like kind of getting out, because this is '90. There's not bands coming out that sound like that too much. And there's a lot of good bands coming out, but it was hard to find. All right, let's take a look at some records. Let's go all the way back to '87. Now, let's talk about a compilation, which was kind of a big deal as far as a lot of these bands go that were on here. This is Raging Death compilation. What you had on here is you had Executioner, which is here, pre-Obituary. You have Sadist, kind of a death thrash band from the Bay Area. Lethal Presence from Canada, fucking killer darkened thrash. Betrayal, another fucking ripping band from the Bay Area, killer thrash band. And then Ravage, which was pre-Atheist. So this is kind of almost like a mix between thrash, and death metal. And this was '87, so when I first heard, especially the Executioner and Ravage songs on here, oh my god, dude, I was like, holy fuck, these bands are fucking sick. I gotta get that shit, right? So, very influential comp for me. We'll talk about another comp too, but for me, that's 87, and then we'll take it. I'm trying to do this kind of like in order as far as year goes. I might get off here a little bit. Next one, this was a big release for me. Macabre, Grim Reality. Oh, man, dude. This album just fucking blew my mind. Serial Killer, Mr. Albert Fish, Disease, Mass Murderer, Son of Sam, Hot Rods from Hell, Ed Gein, and Natural Disaster. Just a band singing about serial killers, super weird vocals. The bass drum is fucking insane. A band that was kind of like just had its own thing, but it always got dropped in the death metal category. And it did have some death metal vocals on it, but then it had the other vocals, which were like weird high pitched shit from Corporate Death. But I was just into serial killers at the time, and this album really spoke to me. And of course, Gloom was a fucking banger as well. And Sinister Slaughter, and they got more death metal as they progressed. I wouldn't say got more death metal, but had more death growls, I guess would be the word to say. But this album for me, very fucking influential, and I honestly don't think I've ever showed this on my channel before, but really haven't talked about Macabre, but they're a big band to me, especially when they came out, and this was on a weird label. This was like on Decomposed Records. Might have been their own label. I'm not positive, but yeah, check that one out. All right. Now we're going to get to Grind Crusher, another compilation that was pretty big for 1989. The bands on here, you got Morbid Angel, Repulsion, Carcass, Godflesh, Napalm Death, Terrorizer, Bolt Thrower, Intense Degree, and Filthy Christians. I don't think Intense Degree, I mean, this came with a little 7-inch too, the Napalm Death 7-inch. You Suffer, 1 second. It's the 1 second 7-inch. But yeah, dude. This shit was, I had this shit on repeat all the time. I think it was the first time I really heard the new version of Chapel of Ghouls. Fuck, dude. Fucking destroyed. And then Repulsion was on here. I love that. Love the Carcass. It had the Exhumed to Consume, but it wasn't the record version. It's a different version. It might be the Peel Session version. I don't remember. And then Napalm Death, Missing Link. Fucking crushing song. Terrorizer, Dead Shall Rise, and Bolt Thrower. Through the Eye of Terror, man. Fuck, man. This album just, it's a grind crusher, is what it is. But, yeah, big record for me. Influential. And then we're going to get to Entombed, Left Hand Path. You got to add this in. You can't leave out Entombed. It was a big album for me. I do like how it does say Ex Nihilist. That's pretty cool. So it does shout out that they were Nihilist. This album's just is a fucking game changer in the death metal scene to me, honestly. Swedish death metal, I mean, it made it more of a widely spread thing, I guess, when this album came out, even though this was hard to get. You got to remember, guys, this is like on Earache. It's an import. You can't just go to your record store and get this. They're just not going to have it. I think I had to order this to get this record, so. But again, Left Hand Path, just a fucking classic. And then it has almost all the songs from the demos. Drowned, Revel in Flesh, When Life is Ceased, Supposed to Rot, Morbid Devourment, The Truth Beyond. So it just basically has the demo songs on here from Nihilist, re-recorded. You get that fucking Skosberg fucking production on here, which is heavy as fuck. And LG just screaming his fucking guts out on this. Fucking banger. You guys all know that shit from 89. Oh shit. I got one here that's actually earlier than that. I should have talked about first, but that's okay. We have Carcass, Recapitulation from 88, man. Again, just this record to me just another game changer, man. Just blew my mind. when I heard this record, I was like, what the fuck? I mean, just look at that cover. I was just like, well, who is this band? um, Again, the guy at the comic shop had this record, and he was like, hey, check this out. I'll buy my copy. I got another copy coming because mine didn't have his copy didn't have the lyric sheet, so he sold me this one, which it doesn't have the lyric sheet, so. But whatever. So he got a different copy, and I got this one, and just this record was just so heavy and disgusting and fucking, I don't know, man. I can't even describe this record as far as, it had a lot of grindcore elements, but a lot of death metal elements, a lot of, I mean, obviously they took a lot of stuff from Repulsion and made their own band, their own sound out of it. Mixed it with Napalm and Discharge and whatever you want to say. But just a fucking unheralded classic, man. No one could get this record. No one could ever play something like this again. They can mimic it, but there'll never be another record like this. So that's 88, man. Up next, Slowly Rewrought by Obituary. One of the heaviest things I fucking ever heard when this record came out. Obviously, I knew about Executioner already, and this was 89 again, man. 89 was a year for death metal. Just fucking punishing, heavy Celtic Frost inspired death metal with fucking Tardy's vocals were just over the top, like just nightmarish howls. And this is the old RC recording. So yeah, all these are OG press. But anyways, yeah, this album fucking just killed it, man. And that cover, just a dude laying in the fucking street, makes no sense. But obviously, a lot, kind of a. I mean, during that time, all those bands from Florida, Morbid Angel, whatnot, it was just a big scene. And they were one of the first bands I heard, besides Morbid Angel, and another band we'll talk about here in a little bit. But this next band, probably one of my all-time favorite records, Autopsy, Severed Survival. Yeah, man, this one, this album was so fucking sick. This and the demos, so fucking good. Charred Remains, Service for a Vacant Coffin, Disembowel, Gaspy. Every song on here is Pagan Savior. Again, about Rawhead Rex, so another horror movie reference. Embalmed is, oh my god, dude, just such fucking classic fucking death metal. Like if someone's like, hey, what's death metal? And you just show them Autopsy, man. That's death metal right there. He basically took what they were doing from death and like made it grosser. And already, you can see the Nihilist shirt back there, too. So, that was already coming over to the States at that time in 89. And Nihilists were big fans of Autopsy as well. So, another one from 89. Pestilence, Consuming Impulse, dude. Fuck. Man, this record. And you got Martin Van Drunen here from fucking Asphyx as well, doing vocals. This was his first band before Asphyx. And their first album, which I had before this, was more thrash, but it's on the spectrum of death thrash, I would say. And all these guys, you could tell. Just look at the back. Death shirt, Carcass shirt, Autopsy shirt. So, and this is 89. So, you can kind of see where we're going here as far as what death metal is, or where, like, what bands are influencing all these other bands. It was kind of what I was talking about, and that kind of sums it up by those shirts on the back. But yeah, dude, Dehydrated. This is just a heavy fucking crushing record. Definitely has some thrash influences, but it's not thrash. Suspended Animation, Chronic Infection, Reduced to Ashes. Yeah. You know what you're getting. You guys all know these records. Another one from 89. Game Changer. Another Game Changer. Bolt Thrower, Realm of Chaos. And sick gatefold, man. These guys took that Warhammer stuff, Games Workshop. They even were like had a little Games Workshop logo on this record. I don't know if the new one does. I think Eric spent a lot of money on this. Came with like a full booklet and everything about what was going on as far as I think this follows the War Master game. I don't know, dude. I'm not into that shit, but I'm sure it had to do with that. And just heavy pummeling shit that wasn't coming out. Nothing was done like this. Obviously, it's hugely influenced by like bands like Sacrilege and Discharge. Those kind of crust bands that were on the verge of metal that had those riffs as well. And then some grindcore stuff. You get some Napalm in here, and then just heavy pummeling fucking death metal, dude. This shit just fucking destroys. My favorite fucking Bolt Thrower record, just because it just fucking crushes. Was super lucky to get this. I had to order it again from a record store that wasn't in my area so I could get this record, but not much more to say about that. Don't want to skimp out on talking about a couple of these from '89. Morbid Angel, Altars of Madness, Stone Cold classic, man. Just a fucking death metal fucking masterpiece. And again, most of these songs were already on demos and Abominations, so just redone with David's vocals and better production. But this shit rips, man. I fucking love this record. I thought I brought my original copy. I never bought the vinyl. I mean, I have a vinyl copy now, but it's not OG. But this is the first version I bought. And again, it was on Eric, so you had to be able to get it imported. You couldn't just go to the store because they weren't affiliated with Combat yet. So the OG press, and again, songs like Maze of Torment, Chapel of Ghouls, Immortal Rites. Immortal Rites just fucking blew the roof off. Bleed for the Devil. Again, man, it's all these songs on here. Visions from the Dark Side, Evil Spells, Blasphemy. Just fucking, it's an amazing death metal record that everybody should own. And I know there's people like others. I like the other stuff that came out from this band as well. But for me, this will always be the classic. One more on tape before I forget about it. Grave, Into the Grave. Just a huge fucking record for me when it came out. It's so fucking heavy and crushing. And I believe this is like probably the only thing here that's not from 89 or 90. I think that's from 91, possibly. But it has all the old demo songs on it. So it's like, yeah, it's newer than the other stuff, but it still had like those old songs on it. So I'm including it because why not? And then from 1990, you gotta include Deicide. You gotta include this, man, because this album just is a fucking masterpiece. Very influenced by thrash, by like bands like Dark Angel for sure. You can hear a lot of Dark Angel riffs in here, but they did something, and they put a lot of energy into this record, and it just fucking smokes. There's not an album I think that comes close to sounding as fucking heavy and nasty as this fucking record. As far as like that just ripping thrash. And then yeah, songs like Deicide, Carnage in the Temple of Dan, Dead by Dawn, another Evil Dead reference. There you go again. But yeah, Deicide, heavy, satanic fucking death metal. And, oh shit, last but not least, we have Unleashed, Where No Life Dwells. Fuck, dude. Just a fucking banger, man. Whoa, what's in here? Oh, fuck, dude. Score. You guys are going to see something I didn't even know was in here. Look at that shit. Unleashed, Where No Life Dwells. This was a promo poster. This did not come with the record. I got this. I don't remember where I got this, at a show or something. I thought I lost this. I was like, where's that Unleashed poster I used to have? I guess I stuck it in here. But yeah, Century Media, and I believe this was 90 as well. Maybe 91. It is, yeah, it's 91. So these last two records are, I mean, a little bit newer. I mean, Grave and the Unleashed, those came out a little bit late in the game, so that was 91. But again, you have a lot of songs from the demos on here. But then you have songs like Before the Creation of Time. Just, man, dude. And seeing these guys live during this fucking concert, just amazing, man. Amazing fucking shit. Just a great fucking record that I don't think gets enough love, man. Not a lot of people talk about it, that first Unleashed record. Or even Shadows, man. That's another great record. I think Soulless gets the most love because it's more accessible, but those first two records are death metal fucking classics. But that's all I got. So I don't know about 13 records, but I showed a fair amount. I'm just gonna use that because I want to give Steve credit for the video he did, for the idea I got from this, and just talking about old school death metal, man. Yeah. And I apologize if I showed stuff I've showed before, but a lot of people haven't seen that stuff, or I might have deleted some old videos. Who knows, man? I don't remember. It's just YouTube, right? All right. Yeah, I'm glad I did this video. Again, I'll be doing more live streams coming up. I took a couple weeks off. If you guys don't know, I do live streams a lot. So my channel, you don't see a lot of me sometimes on my channel. But I'll probably get a couple live streams on my channel as well. But I'm doing a horror thing with Jeff probably soon. Go check out the other horror. If you guys like horror movies, go check out the stuff I did with Chromium Dioxide, Eric Bauer, and Jeff. Don from Agalok did one with him over at Jeff's channel at Gas Masks and Hand Grenades. Go check out the live section over there, and we do like 3-4 hour streams that are pretty fun. Ken's Death Metal Crypt, I did one with him on demos a couple weeks ago. That one's pretty cool. It's like 6 hours though. It's worth every fucking minute though. And then, yeah, man, just go check out that shit if you want to see more of me rambling on about music and movies and VHS tapes and horror memorabilia and stuff like that. So, yeah, man. Good shit. Let me know if I missed anything. I'm sure I missed stuff that I forgot about, or maybe I didn't consider it something influential to me growing up. But mainly it's those demos. Like, getting into that stuff, that's what got me into death metal. And then the records followed. But for me, it's I still listen to that early stuff by Necrophagia and Death, and just, I listen to all the Sodom stuff, all that Hellhammer shit. So it's just what I've always thought was extreme, I guess. So, but anyways, enough of me talking. I'll talk to you guys later. Let me know if you want me to do any other shit. I was thinking of doing a death metal EP thing, maybe. Maybe I'll do it. Let's have a beer and do some thrash metal. Yeah, we need to talk about thrash some more. I haven't talked about that in a while. So maybe my next video will be thrash metal. Old school shit. Nah, really? Yeah. All right. Take care, guys. Thanks for watching.